What is going on, YouTube? Andrew Miller from Hook'emHeadlines.com coming back at y'all today with a recruiting video, taking a look at some of the recruits that were on campus this weekend that visited for the spring game. Who came away impressed, and where Texas stands with a lot of these guys. I thought it was smart for Sark and this staff to not necessarily host a huge visitor weekend for the spring game in terms of the quantity of visitors, but the quality of the recruits on campus this weekend was very, very high. I thought it gave more of a personalized experience for a lot of these guys, and quite a few of these recruits left, feeling very positive about their visit for the spring game. And like I said, there was just a lot of buzz and excitement in the air on the 40 this weekend, and there really has been, as this program has looked like it's headed in the right direction all throughout spring ball. So, like I said, I think smart for Sark and this staff to capitalize on a lot of that excitement and buzz surrounding the program right now during the spring game. Go ahead and jump in here. I'll mention that I did do an article on the site, some key recruits that came away impressed. Going to mention some of that information on here, but that I'll link that as always in the description below if you want a little bit more detail on where Texas stands with some of these recruits and how they felt about the visit this weekend. So let's go ahead and start here, taking a look at a guy in the 2025 class, four-star tight end Bear Tenney. This was Tenney's first visit to the 40 this weekend. Again, he's a four-star tight end that just made the move from Gilbert, Arizona to Lovejoy, Texas. So he's a lot closer to the 40 now. He's a guy that Texas offered last fall. Jeff Banks, kind of got communication going around 6 or 8 months ago in this recruitment. I think Texas is in a great spot after, Tenney's family made the move to, just get a few hours north of Austin. And, this was his first visit to the 40 acres this weekend. He was active on social media, posted pictures of himself in the Texas gear, a picture with Jeff Banks, and it sounds like that Jeff Banks really made a big impression on him. He said that the spring game was awesome and that he likes how Banks uses the tight ends. He specifically noted JT Sanders and, how much he likes his play style and his usage in the offense, and the way that he's developed. And so, I think that, Texas made a positive impression on a number of different levels with Tenney. Tenney being much closer to the 40 now is a huge factor, I think, for Texas. Sounds like a return visit will be in the cards here in the near future. But I like where Texas stands right now. There's still a long way to go in this one. But it was a good start, definitely, for Jeff Banks and the Longhorns in this one. Taking a look now at some of the visitors from the 2024 class. One of the biggest visitors, I think, on campus this weekend, literally in terms of size and, importance to the Longhorns, is a four-star offensive tackle and Walton High School product out of Marietta, Georgia, Daniel Calhoun. Top 5 ranked offensive tackle recruit in the nation in the 2024 class by most of the major recruiting services. He's a guy that has a lot of the, big time SEC programs after him. The Georgias of the world, Tennessee, Florida, schools like that, Alabama as well. Texas is jumping in here and really, I think, giving him a good selling pitch. I believe this was his first visit to the 40. I will take a look at that just to be sure. But, Texas, I think, did more than enough to establish themselves as, at least one of the schools that Calhoun is taking seriously and really considering moving forward. Yeah, this was his first visit to the 40. This visit was definitely a good starting point for them as well. I think they made a strong initial impression, which is big because Calhoun has an official visit coming up on the weekend of June 24th. It's turning into a really, really big official visit weekend for the Longhorns. I think he had a lot of positive things to say about this visit. He mentioned Kelvin Banks specifically as someone that, he's been watching and that he likes how, Texas has, really turned him into a game breaker right away. Banks was a freshman All-American, made an immediate impact along this offensive line. And, he really showed that, Flood is doing a great job capturing and developing talent on the 40 here in the last couple of recruiting cycles. And so I like where Texas stands with Calhoun. They're going to have a big opportunity here when he's on campus this summer for his official visit in late June. Moving on here, one of the surprise visitors this weekend, he wasn't on a lot of the initial visitor lists, and I was not expecting him on campus this weekend, but was 4-star Brownsboro wide receiver Gekyle Baker. The 6'3" wideout, he's been a pretty frequent visitor on the 40 here in the last, I would say, 6 or 8 months. And he's someone that Texas is making a priority among in-state wideouts. He had a big rise this spring. There's a few recruiting services out there. I believe 2 of them have him as a composite top 125 recruit in the nation in the 2024 class. He's one of my personal favorite in-state wideouts. He's got good physical tools, good measurables. He's a good vertical athlete, good size, speed, excellent hands. I think he would fit very, very nicely as a boundary wide receiver for Texas. But I think that Texas has made some really strong impressions on him. Again, frequent visitor on campus. He was on campus for junior day here a few months ago, the first junior day of the offseason on January 21st. He was also on campus for a game last fall at DKR. I believe in October was his first unofficial visit to campus. He's visited Texas more than any other school last fall, so he clearly has liked what he's seen so far. Had some really nice things to say about not only the environment at DKR on Saturday and the offense as a whole, but also some specific playmakers. He really took notice of some of the wide receivers that were standing out in the spring game. A.D. Mitchell was one guy he specifically noted. But he said the game was great, offense looked good, played well, and he was, again, very active on social media. Saw a lot of reports coming out of the weekend that Texas made another really, really left another really, really strong impression on Baker. And I would completely agree from everything I've heard. He even posted on Twitter that he had a great time in Austin with a video of him on the sideline for the spring game. So love to see a lot of the feedback from Baker's visit this weekend. Next name up here is another Baker, but I mentioned him. I think I mentioned him at the top of the video. 5-star offensive tackle, modern day product, Brandon Baker, the number 1 offensive tackle recruit in the nation in the 2024 class, in the On3 consensus and 247 Sports composite. He was one of the most important visitors on campus this weekend. I specifically noted that. I did a piece. I always do a piece before these big game weekends at DKR, whether it's spring game or a regular season game during the fall, of the biggest visitors to expect on campus and what where Texas stands with them, just at maybe more at a high level. But I mentioned Baker as maybe the most important visitor this weekend because he's got a really really busy spring visit schedule. There's still a lot of big time Power 5 schools that he's considering, and so Texas wanted to throw their hat in the ring, and I think that Texas made a pretty big move this weekend. It sounds like he got to spend some quality time with Kyle Flood, even got some conversation time with Sark. Sark kind of pitched him on that West Coast connection, kind of that selling point. He knows modern day. He's recruited that spot well in the past, and he's got connections out there from his time at USC and Washington. But also, sold the ability of Flood to, like I said, for Calhoun, recruit and develop a lot of these blue chip offensive linemen. And, it sounds like those, kind of those selling points, hit home for Baker. He's got a ton of schools in the mix still. He just saw USC and Michigan. I think he's got UCLA coming up among, I think, 2 or 3 other visits this spring. So, Texas, like I said, I think this was just important to be able to get yourself in that, group of schools that at least has a fighting chance here, and then, really set up to, get one of the official visits maybe during the summer or fall. I think Texas put themselves in a position to do that this weekend. The last 2024 recruit among the 5 stars that I have on the list is the number 1 rated running back recruit in the nation in the 2024 class, 5-star IMG Academy product, Jerrick Gibson. This is a name that I probably talked more about in the last few days on the site than anyone else. Texas sits in a fantastic spot with Gibson right now. Tashard Choice has an amazing relationship with him. Texas already landed the number one running back recruit in the nation in the 2023 class when they brought in C.J. Baxter Jr. Another guy out of the state of Florida. Gibson's guy out of Florida. Choice has a relationship here that goes back more than a year. I believe it's back to his time as Georgia Tech's running backs coach, which, he was hired at Texas like 14 months ago. So, this is a really long-standing relationship. And Gibson's a guy that has been on campus. I believe this was his second visit to Texas, just in 2023, his third unofficial visit to Texas since last summer. And he's got another visit coming up, an official on that weekend of June 23rd, 24th, 25th that I mentioned with Daniel Calhoun. Again, massive visit weekend for Texas then, but there was a lot of positive things that Gibson and his family had to say coming out of this visit. Steve Wilt, following 247 Sports, posted a tweet. I believe that was earlier this morning. We're recording this on the night of April 16th, so not too long ago, that Gibson just said that this visit was amazing, reiterated that. His dad had some positive things to say about it, just in the sense that, Texas's staff, Coach Choice in particular, continue to make them feel like part of the Longhorn family, kind of sell them on that point. Gibson's getting really comfortable around the 40 acres. Again, he's been here a lot. The only school that he's visited as many times as Texas in the last, I think, 3 months is Florida. And, it sounds like Texas made a big enough impression this weekend, and, they continue to kind of have that pole position here in this recruitment, but, make a big enough impression to where Gibson might actually want to make a return visit to the 40 before his official visit in late June. If that ends up happening, obviously that's a fantastic sign of where Texas sits among Gibson's top schools. But, all the chatter here is that Texas is considered the favorite. There's been a lot of, recruiting experts, national analysts, and reporters that have forecasted his commitment to Texas already. That's been a thing here for the last few months. So, Texas continues to be in a very, very favorable spot here. I think one quote that I heard from Gibson during the weekend that kind of stuck out to me was that he was just talking about the electric energy that Tashard Choice brings to the table, and that just that everything was really fun, and that he enjoyed the atmosphere. A lot of his rhetoric coming out of the weekend just sounded like it was a really laid back visit, and that kind of reiterating that point that he's really comfortable here, and has great connection with not just Tashard Choice, but really this entire coaching staff. He's getting along, forming connections with some of the other recruits as well. I think I've said it 3 or 4 times now, but I love where Texas stands here. So a few other names I did want to mention, just still important recruits that it seems like Texas impressed this weekend. One, Ja'Cory Watson, blue chip athlete out of Pearland, Texas, Shadow Creek High School. He just said that he had a great time. I think this was his second or third visit to Texas in the last few months. He visited last fall, so and then also made a trip 2 weeks ago. I think that was during the relays. So he's been a guy that's been getting to Texas quite a bit here since last fall. He mentioned the fans, the atmosphere at GKR, and just that getting to see the campus facilities again, all that sort of stuff. It sounds like he's got a good impression of Texas and all of what it has to offer so far for him. But he's a guy again that's from Texas, so I'm sure that he could be a name to watch that will be a frequent visitor for the rest of the offseason. Another name that I had actually pinpointed as one of the bigger 2025 recruits that was on campus this weekend is 2025 running back, 4-star DeSoto product, Tiger. I believe it's Tiger Ridden. I need to get the pronunciation on that last name right. But, he's a guy that Texas has been putting a lot into this recruitment in the last few months. It sounds like he's one of the top priorities at the running back position in state in the 2025 class. He's got good communication with Tashard Choice. It seems like he likes the vibe on campus, the fans. He mentioned a number of guys, C.J. Baxter, even some of the wide receivers, Worthy, Jonte Cook, A.D. Mitchell, that stood out to him during the spring game, and they've really caught his eye. Especially for guys like Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Jonathan Brooks, guys like that have caught his eye before, really going back to like last fall. But, there's some guys that will continue to, I'm sure draw his attention and that he'll be watching during the fall. CJ Baxter, Trey Wisner is a guy that was his teammate in the backfield at DeSoto last year. And, a guy that's, I believe, he wasn't an early enrollee, so we'll be enrolling soon at Texas. But, Tiger, kid to keep an eye on just because, again, Texas is prioritizing him above most of the other running backs that they've offered in the 2025 class this spring. So, but those are pretty much all the names I wanted to mention here. Again, some of the biggest ones: Jerrick Gibson, Brandon Baker, number one recruits in the nation at their positions in the 2024 class. Also good to see a guy like Gekyle Baker get to campus, make the trip, even though he wasn't originally on the visitor list or on the schedule from what we heard. So anyway, for Andrew Miller at Hook'emHeadlines.com, that's pretty much it. Hook 'em.